Heck of a week 14 Sunday in the NFL. Matt Stafford outdueling Josh Allen. We're talking 86 total points in that ball game. Seahawks with a huge win in their quest to win the NFC West, and the Chiefs do it again. All that and a whole lot more coming up on today's Peacock and Williamson.
NFL analyst Brian Peacock and former NFL scout Matt Williamson bring you expert NFL analysis every day in less than 30 minutes. Get an inside look at the NFL on the field and in the front office with elite breakdowns to next-level analysis and in-depth information only for the real NFL fans. This is Peacock and Williamson, and it starts now.
Welcome to the Peacock and Williamson NFL Show. Brian Peacock alongside Matt Williamson, as always, at BD Peacock at Williamson NFL. Thanks, everybody, for making us your first listen on the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Love the everydayers that hang out with us daily throughout the season and into the off season, and it's a whole lot of fun, and this one will be as well, because what a week of football it was on Sunday. And welcome to all the new listeners as well. Please subscribe on YouTube or wherever you are listening to this podcast. Today's episode of Peacock and Williamson is brought to you by Prize Picks. Prize Picks is daily fantasy made easy. A special offer for our listeners. Use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup at Prize Picks. Okay, we got to start with the shootout that was with the Los Angeles Rams and the Buffalo Bills. And after the Buffalo Bills just thumped one NFC West team in the snow on Sunday night, they go across the country to face the Rams. And it was a very different game and a very different final score. And fantasy points galore if you started these quarterbacks, especially with Josh Allen, who went for 6 TDs. The first time ever, Matt. I mean, this is such a crazy game because Josh Allen's doing things that have never been done before, and they still lost this game 44-42. The Rams defeat the Buffalo Bills, ending the Buffalo Bills winning streak. The 10-3 Bills now still in good shape, but fall out behind the Chiefs for that 1 seed. We'll talk more about the Chiefs in a minute. But man, Josh Allen, no quarterback has ever thrown for 3 touchdowns and rushed for 3 more in an NFL game. And when a quarterback had 6 touchdowns and did not give a ball away, teams were, I think it was 245-0 in NFL history. Now it's 245-1. So congratulations, Josh Allen. You had the most amazing loss in NFL history.
It really is. I was double checking it as you were doing the intro. In one of the leagues I have Josh Allen, he scored 64 fantasy points and lost. I mean, that's insane. They put up 3 touchdowns in the fourth quarter and lost. No turnovers in this game. I mean, by either team. I mean, it was a remarkable football game. And frankly, it was a remarkable quarterback game. Both these guys showed that they are elite or were once elite and still have it in them elite. And that Rams offense, I bet the splits are ridiculously good when Nakua, Kupp, and Stafford are all on the field together. And Nakua gets a little overshadowed from the quarterbacks, but he shouldn't. He was remarkable in this game too. 162, carrying the ball, make contorted catches.
Catch of the year?
Yeah, this was a blast.
When you not only have to make the leaping catch, but able to come down with the toe tap at the same time. I mean, he's doing it after the catch. He's ridiculous. He's getting open. He's a tough player. 12 for 162 and a touchdown for Puka Nakua in this game. 92 more receiving yards and a touchdown for Cooper Kupp. Stafford going for 320 yards, but that, paled in comparison. More efficient numbers for Matthew Stafford, better quarterback rating for Matthew Stafford, even though Josh Allen threw for 3 touchdowns and 342 yards and was their leading rusher as well. Is great offense or bad defense? A little bit of both, maybe?
A little bit of both, but I do think we have to mention that probably the play of the game is the block punt for the touchdown. I mean, that's probably the difference in win or loss. The Rams back 7 definitely worries me. I think the Bills defense is good, not great, especially when you compare them to other playoff type teams. But man, if I'm the Bills, I'm not sweating this at all. I mean, except for my shot at getting the number 1 seed in the AFC is quickly dwindling, but they win this game. I'm sure like next gen stats would tell you they win this game 9 out of 10 times playing the way they did.
Oh, 999 out of 1,000 times.
yeah, right.
Yeah. Pretty unbelievable game there. And the Rams had to have it. So this is super interesting.
It
when
is.
you start looking at the NFC West and where the Rams are at 7-6 now. And all these games start to become like, we got to win this game. We got to win out if you're those teams in the NFC West. Niners, same way. The Cards dropped one to the Seattle Seahawks here, and it's a huge one. So the Seahawks improved to 8-5. They beat the Cardinals, who fall to 6-7. That was probably one of the biggest jumps in the league in Week 14 for a team's probabilities to make the playoffs, and a hit for the Cardinals and a win for the Seattle Seahawks. 30-18 win for the Seahawks over the Cardinals. What's fascinating right now, though, Matt, about the Seahawks and the Rams, who were both winners, the Rams are one game behind the Seahawks. So what's fascinating, though, is that both of these teams control their own destiny because they play each other in Week 18. And if the Rams win out, that means they beat the Seahawks in Week 18, and they would actually win the West. So even though the Rams are a game behind, they still control their own destiny. And this is going to come down to Week 18. It's Rams, Seahawks, and it's 49ers, Cardinals. I don't think the 49ers, Cardinals game might matter that much. But Rams, Seahawks, Week 18 could be a playoff game to see who wins the West or doesn't get in at all, even though the Washington stranglehold on that 7th wildcard spot isn't ironclad right now either. But even though they're ahead of the game, not impossible for another team to get a wild card spot. But I think it's crazy that these teams both control their own destiny here with the Seahawks and the Rams as we go down to the wire with this one.
That's very cool. And you just laid out the scenario in what's all of a sudden the most competitive division, or certainly near that. And man, I mean, were the Cardinals the biggest loser of the day? I mean, not that they were terrible, but just everyone around them won, and they lost a head-to-head and now are 2 games back from Seattle. They have to be the biggest loser in the league, in terms of where they were when kickoff started.
I would say Falcons and Cardinals.
Falcons too, yeah.
Those are really the only 2 teams, because what the Falcons didn't want to see happen is exactly what happened. What the Cardinals didn't want to see happen, everybody won in the West but them, is exactly what happened. Let's finish up the West. The 49ers really thumped the Bears from jump. This was not a close football game. They ran them off the field. And again, you look at the Bills, you look at the 49ers and what happened Sunday night in the snow, and completely different back in California the following week with those 2 teams, specifically the defense of the Bills and the 49ers all around. It's really one of the, since week 1, maybe against the Jets on Monday Night Football, the best 4 quarters the 49ers have played. The interim head coach bump wasn't happening for the Chicago Bears in this game. They fall to 4-9. They're 0-6 now on the road. The Bears are. But the Niners, again, every game is one they've got to win. They still only have about a 5% chance after this one to win the West. So it's really up to, they need help from the Rams and the Seahawks for them to even have an opportunity to potentially get. But, some teams that's the way it's going in the West, is nobody's going to win out. So if the 49ers do, 10-7 should probably get you in. Everyone's going to lose at least one more game, right? And it might be, all these teams lose again next week. It's just the way it's gone in the West. But a huge sign for the 49ers to come out and really thump a football team and give themselves a little bit more confidence down the stretch here, and remind everybody what they can do a little bit. And I just love seeing George Kittle get the ball early and often, and he should have got the ball even more, in fact. And me and Crocker on Locked On 49ers have been like, how do you not target George Kittle 12 times a game? It's insane. Yeah,
it's nuts to me, especially the way Debo struggled and all the different things surrounding the team. It's not like, well, McCaffrey got his 30 touches, and Kittle's your best thing going right now. Your Niners kind of remind me of the Holy Grail. Bring out your dead, not dead yet. Like they're still kicking. And they're still capable of greatness. It's been a brutal season, but you laid it out. If they run the table here and they get in the playoffs, and I don't know, the any division winner, I don't want San Francisco coming to town.
No, not at all. And by the way, it might end. They're not dead yet, but Thursday night
win divisions. Yeah,
Thursday night, Rams Niners. It could end there. The Niners lose to the Rams. That's it. And they could deal a big blow to the Rams cause as well. So that's going to be a big
the West is going to be really fun here coming down the stretch.
And we'll see if we might be on running back 4 for the 49ers. Isaac Arendo had a little foot injury. I don't think it's a major injury, but ho-hum, guess what? A Kyle Shanahan running back looked just fine again, right? Had some nice runs. They got him involved as a pass catcher. He's a former wide receiver, and he might still be a little raw, and I think he's more of a...
That's Taylor you're talking about?
Isaac Guerendo.
Oh, Guerendo. Okay,
yeah. He ended up leaving the game late, has a foot injury. It's not looking like it's serious, but, a quick turnaround on a short week, and maybe that's going to be a difficult one for him to be ready. So we might see Patrick Taylor in.
Is Taylor the pickup for fantasy?
He is. The Niners did swipe second-year running back Izzy Abanaconda, who I loved, and I called him out during the draft process last year as a Shanahan style of back. He might be an interesting one after he's been there for a week, and he didn't play for the 49ers yesterday, but he might be someone who is even able to be RB2 to start out that game. And when you're RB2 for the 49ers, you're RB1 real soon. That's kind of the way things go. But 15 for 78, a couple touchdowns, showed off his speed. Purdy was really good, missed a couple. It could have, because they were aggressive. He missed a couple of deep balls. This one could have been an even bigger blowout for the 49ers. And the defense really showed up. Talanoa Hufanga came back for the 49ers. Dre Greenlaw is practicing and on his way back too. And if Bosa's healthy, don't look now, they might look a lot more like that defense they thought they were going to have to start the year as well. And Hufanga made a huge impact, I thought, to the defense. So yeah, this is probably not the team you want to face late in the year if they start getting a little bit healthier here.
Yeah, it's nice that you actually get some good news. Oh, we're getting people back, like, wow, and not body blow, taking all my guys. And as you know, there were some uncommonly poor offensive stats for the Bears at half. I mean, they averaged 0.5 yards a play or something crazy, right?
You had less than I think was 143 passing yards for Caleb Williams in the end, and they've been a better second half offense than a first half offense anyway, all year long, even with Thomas Brown jumping in. And the net yardage was well under 100 yards when you consider the sacks. He gets sacked more than anybody. He was sacked 7 times in this game. Made Yetur Gross-Matos look like Nick Bosa in this game. He had 3 sacks. Leonard Floyd had a couple of sacks. And but at halftime, it was like 300-4 yards.
Right, yeah.
It's just not even close. Ran right out of the building. It was like touchdown, 3 and out, touchdown, 3 and out. So look, and you beat up on a bad team and a team that's not in a good place right now for the 49ers, but some confidence going down the stretch here for that team. And we'll see how this looks in the NFC West. Next, let's talk Chiefs, who did the most Chiefs thing you can do, winning another football game. The Vikings, we talked about the Falcons loss. That meant it was a Vikings win. More about the NFC South, the NFC North, and a whole lot more, including those Pittsburgh Steelers and some of the really good games from Week 14 next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by Hillsdale College. Time is our most precious commodity, so don't waste it scrolling through the same mind-numbing content for hours and hours. How can you spend it wisely to improve yourself? Our sponsor, Hillsdale College, is offering more than 40 free, that's right, free online courses, including history, economics, the great works of literature. Did you study these in school? Maybe. Do you need a refresher? Yeah, probably. And all of Hillsdale courses are self-paced, so you can start whenever, you can tune in wherever. Plus, you can always go deeper on your own, with readings, quizzes, discussions, or just enjoy the lectures. So go right now to hillsdale.edu/lockedon to enroll. There's no cost. It's easy to get started. That's hillsdale.edu/lockedon to register. hillsdale.edu/lockedon. This episode is also brought to you by Prize Picks, and Prize Picks is the place to play daily fantasy sports. If you love watching the game, you're going to love Prize Picks. It's the easiest, most exciting way to get in on this NFL action. We'll win real money, whether it's football, basketball, or any of your favorite sports. Prize Picks makes your holidays bigger and brighter. So now you can win up to 200 times your money on Prize Picks. Plus, the holiday season, they're giving away $30+ million in rewards during Picksmas and offering 2 free picks in December. So download the Prize Picks app today and use code LOCKEDONNFL to get $50 instantly after your first $5 lineup. That's right, $50 instantly when you play your first $5 at Prize Picks. Run your game. Let's go to the Kansas City Chiefs, and they clinched the AFC West, defeating the Chargers 19-17. It's one of those weird, ugly scores that the Chargers have been so accustomed to winning in the 2024 season. They do it again, and this time it's their backup kicker who's been around the league on, 3 teams at least since training camp this year, and he doinks one off of the left upright that catapults through for a game-winning field goal after some classic. I mean, you just can't let Patrick Mahomes have the ball last within 6 points because you're going to lose the football game. That's just what happens. Scrambles for a first down. Of course, the play where he finds Travis Kelce, creates and maneuvers through the pocket and finds number 87, as he's done so many times in his career. I mean, you write the script before the game even happens, and then you just watch it play out in slow motion. So unfortunately for the Chargers, who're still in a good place at 8-5, but congrats to the Chiefs at 12-1 with the Bills loss, and obviously clinching the West. The Chiefs are in a great spot to win that 1 seed again in the AFC.
So the kicker is my man, Matthew Wright. He was in Steeler camp. I mean, he actually sat down with us one time and had a little chat on the drive. I mean, he's a good dude. So I'm happy for Matthew Wright. Good stuff.
He came through for the Niners this year as well.
Oh, okay. Yeah, he's been around.
Yeah.
Couple things. Big picture stuff. I know they're 12-1 and they're going for a three-peat, and they have Mahomes and Kelce and Reed. I'm not that impressed with this team. I mean, I think their tackles are a major problem. And the other pass rushers not named Chris Jones and some secondary stuff, I think the Chiefs can be had. Like, I wouldn't have them super high in a power rank. So they'd be in the top 6, don't get me wrong. But if I'm the Chargers, I'm looking at this going, we can hang with these guys. And we don't have really any running backs or much of a running game. We have Peacock and Williamson catching passes from Herbert at the moment without McConkey. Like, none of these guys get open for them. And their defense still keeps things close. Herbert's still a star. So I look at the Chargers and think they're an offseason away from being a big-time contender, and this has been a super successful season. So I got in a big battle with my buddies about this. And usually I'm not one of the let them score type of guys. But there was like 3.5 minutes left in the game. Kansas City's firmly in field goal range. LA was up by 6. They had 3 timeouts and the 2-minute warning. And I'm texting my buds going, just let them score now. You know, give yourself 3.5 minutes, 4 o'clock stoppages to get a touchdown with the ball in your hands. Otherwise, they're going to grind you to dust and kick a field goal with no time on the clock and lose. And I know that's a defeatist mentality, and that was the argument. Like, you can't just let them score now. You got to at least, battle it out. I'm like, no, Mahomes is going to grind you to dust, and you're going to lose. And exactly what happened.
I'm with you 100%. You know how it's going to play out. We
know how it's going to play out.
We mentioned it was like, okay, the Chiefs are going to win. It's going to be by a little bit, and you can't leave it. You can't let Patrick Mahomes out of the ball and one score, right? Like, you just can't do it, and you have to know that going in and play that strategy. I do go back to the Justin Herbert miss. I think it was Josh Palmer. He had deep, and they just
wide open. Yeah,
it. I mean, that ball must have traveled 70 yards in the air. I don't know how far that ball went. And I think he put it out there so far because it was a little bit late and a long, the route took a little bit of time and he still overthrew him, which is pretty unbelievable. But, and congrats to the Chargers for being able to, it was 13-0 at halftime and they climbed back with a couple touchdowns in the third quarter. And so I agree. It did. The Chargers should feel pretty good about the loss. It's not going to feel good, but going in their house and playing it like that way. And, it's just like it's probably a little confidence booster, I think, for the Chargers. It was like, we had him. And, the Dennis Green, we had him and we let him off the hook, right? They are who we thought they were. I think that's probably how Jim Harbaugh and the Chargers feel about this one.
Yep. And I know that they're super competitive and want to win and blah, blah, blah. But I'm just thinking big picture that franchise is in pretty good shape.
By the way, quick note on Ladd McConkey. This is the thing, right? With his build, is he a player that you can target to be the number one target in your offense, right? And that's why he fell a little bit in the draft. He's a smaller guy. He missed time in college to injury. Is he going to be someone who's going to hold up to being that 100-catch guy in the NFL? And it's kind of a question going forward with him. And so now you see why teams may be as good as he is at getting open and as good of a football player as he is, why he fell to the early part of round 2.
They do need a bigger bodied X receiver type, and that might put them over the top.
Yeah. And, no offense to Josh Palmer or Quentin Johnston, but
no,
they're not the guy. They still need the guy there on the outside.
Yeah. If they become your 3 and 4, then you're talking,
So the Buccaneers thumped the Raiders as we expected. The Raiders right now would have the number 1 pick in the NFL draft at 2-11. The Bucs improved to 7-6. So they handled their business. They did what they needed to do against an inferior opponent, and now have a nice little cushion in the AFC or the NFC South with the Vikings helping them out, putting up 21 fourth quarter points, 28 total second half points against the Falcons, winning 42-21. The Falcons fall to 6-7. The Vikings at 11-2, keeping pace in the NFC. And 5 touchdown passes, 247 yards from Sam Darnold. So that was an early game. And went into the afternoon, I had one of those epic fantasy matchups, Matt, where I had Josh Allen, and I saw my opponent have Sam Darnold and 45 points, and I was like, well, I might get scrubbed from playoff contention. And then
Josh
Allen puts on his cape for me and scores Darnold, and the guy I was playing against was so mad. But yeah, that was one of those weeks for me. So the fantasy gods shined on me, and anyone that had Josh Allen might have been in the same boat going against someone that put up big points and came back on their opponent. The Vikings came back on the Atlanta Falcons, were able to win this one pretty big in the end. And some mistakes from Darnold, and the Vikings didn't play perfect, but in the end just ran away from the Falcons, and in that defense, and the Falcons is kind of the big question here, right?
Really blew them out late in the game. 21-0 scoring deficit in the fourth quarter alone. So I've been kind of on the soapbox about Cousins just destroying the team. I think that was the case in this one too. I mean, bad interceptions. You mentioned Darnold. I mean, he'd be the talk of Monday if it wasn't for Stafford and Allen, quarterback of the week, basically. There was one Jefferson touchdown where a defensive back just fell down strangely. I mean, that was an odd play, but that wasn't the difference in the game. But the Falcons actually rushed the passer. I mean, they had sacks. They got after Darnold. That would worry me a little from a Vikings perspective, but I've been guilty of this. I mean, the Vikings are one of the best teams in the league. Like I just said, I don't know if Chiefs should be in my top 5, but I don't think the Chiefs are better than the Vikings. I think they might not be,
Do you think that the Chiefs or the Vikings should be favored over the Chiefs neutral site game right now?
Yeah. I do.
I don't disagree. I don't know. I don't know if I like the Darnold versus Patrick Mahomes fourth quarter. Right. Darnold was pretty good in the fourth quarter. So, and you're right. I was wrong about Cousins. I thought it's a bounce back week, chip on his shoulder, going back to play the Minnesota Vikings. Cousins is cooked, man. I think he is.
The rest of the team's in okay shape, but the quarterback is really holding them back. And I mean, I know it's not power rank time. It's more of a tomorrow conversation, but I might have the Packers. I might have the Steelers over the Chiefs, a couple of those type of teams.
Interesting. Okay. Let's finish up week 14. Still tons from Sunday to get into next. This episode of Peacock and Williamson brought to you by FanDuel, America's #1 sports book. And get ready to tackle the NFL action right now with FanDuel, because right now new customers can bet just $5 and get $150 in bonus bets if you win that first $5 bet. The FanDuel Sportsbook app gives you everything you need to place live bets on the NFL all in one place. Obviously, the weekly lines every single week on FanDuel, which we reference constantly here on the podcast. And you can bet on any game, prop bets, tons of props, tons of ways to get in on the NFL action and NBA action. Of course, that league usually starts to heat up around Christmas time. NHL, every sport imaginable. You can find all the action at FanDuel. So just visit FanDuel.com or download the app and join today. You'll get started with $150 in bonus bets if you win your first $5 bet. That's FanDuel.com. Never waste a hunch and make every moment more with FanDuel, an official sports book partner of the NFL. Okay, here we go. Let's finish up the rest of the week of NFL games that still have the Bengals Cowboys to go on Monday Night Football. The ugliest game of the week has to go to the Jaguars defeating the Titans 10-6. I know you had your popcorn ready, and you were living and dying by every snap in this game. So break down the 3-10 Jaguars versus the 3-10 Titans.
Yeah, I don't have a lot of insight on this one, except the Jags no longer own the first overall pick. So there was a little bit of shakeup at the top of the draft. Two bad teams. I don't know that we should be super shocked by the outcome here, but didn't spend a lot of time on this one.
There is a big game here for the Miami Dolphins that are trying to cling, as some teams are that we've already talked about, like the Niners and the Cardinals, and some teams clinging to hopes and trying to scratch and claw their way. Tyreek Hill, after the game, says, we know we cannot lose. They did not lose. Overtime win for the Dolphins to hang on and beat the New York Jets. The Jets falling to 3-10. The Jet, like, if you're a Jets fan, you're like, man, you're talking about us like the Titans and the Jaguars, the 3-10. Like, that's where you are right now as a football team. New York Jets and the Dolphins were able to win this one against a division rival and keep their playoff hopes alive. 32-26, the final here. As mentioned, Tyreek Hill, undefendable in the end zone on that little whip route, going for 10 for 115 and that one touchdown I just mentioned, and a really important one. Had to have it game for the Miami Dolphins, and they got it.
Yep, quite the collapse by the Jets, but the Dolphins needed it more and played their best down the stretch and in overtime. And Jonnu Smith's been a great story this year. Didn't get any catches in regulation. Overtime, he was the man. Waddle and Hill, as you mentioned, kind of looked like Waddle and Hill again, and two is rolling. So might be too little too late, but good vibes, at least in Miami now.
By the way, catch of the year contestant, I wanted to bring it up and I forgot, the one-handed interception by Byron Murphy in the Vikings.
Oh, yeah, that was nice.
That was just clean. I was like, wow, okay. He's
like Odell or somebody grabbing it. Yeah, right.
Speaking of bad games, Saints beat the Giants 14-11. Ugly score, ugly game. Saints at 5-8 right now. Giants, number 2 pick in the NFL draft, and their season had ended a long time ago. Drew Lock, not only leading passer, leading rusher for the New York Giants, if you want to know how things are going there.
Yeah, not well at all. I mean, they were feeding neighbors a ton with limited results. I guess it's time to kind of look at the Kendre Miller, Valdez Scantling, Jawan Johnson contingency in New Orleans. And it looks like Carr might have broke his left hand. So what's that mean going forward? I give the Saints credit, though. I mean, usually I poo-poo coaching changes, but they've been rather respectable since making theirs.
Rattler season, potentially.
I guess, might as well.
In New Orleans, evaluate. Yeah, a lot of teams in evaluation mode right now in the last month of the season. We've got big ups to Byron Young, who or Bryce Young, excuse me.
Bryce Young, yeah.
Bryce Young, who's been good, right?
Yeah, like
he's coming around. And if Xavier Legette was just able to corral pass, and circumstances are not that's what I've been impressed with Young. Look, 19 of 34, 191 yards and a touchdown. If you look at the box score and the numbers, it doesn't look amazing. But man, if he hits Legette, the Panthers might have knocked off one of the hottest teams in football in the Philadelphia Eagles. In the end, it was a Eagles 22-16 win over the Panthers. Panthers fall to 3-10, but Bryce Young is coming around. He is a guy who's absolutely earned himself the opportunity to continue to develop. They got to get some talent around him to help him out a little bit more. But the pocket's always dirty, but he's making plays. He's buying time. He's hitting throws under duress. I really like what I've seen from Bryce. I can't want to call him Byron Young for some reason. Bryce Young, and phenomenal there. A.J. Brown, though, after the game says, hey, what's going on with the Eagles offense right now? What's wrong with it? He said, passing.
It is. I'll be honest. So this morning I've been digging into this game and the Eagles overall, because next week's the Battle of Pennsylvania, Philly versus Steelers. And I was very, very impressed with the Panthers offense overall, and Young and their line and their young skill position dudes. And they put Hurts in a bit of a blender too. I mean, they made Hurts hold the ball for like 3.4 seconds on average, and he did not play well. Young was the better quarterback yesterday of the two. And I mean, there's small things. The Eagles are loaded, and you could probably look at this as they just beat the Ravens. They're hosting the Steelers next week. This could be one of those sandwich games where you kind of take it lightly, but you get out of there with a win and all's well. And when you look back at the season and you're winning playoff games, nobody cares about it. But there are some chinks in the armor, and the passing game, and Hurts as a traditional passer is kind of the the catalyst for the problems.
Yeah, huge headlines even after a win for the Eagles after he says passing, because he didn't say receiving. He said passing. He didn't say passing. So it did feel like he was throwing his quarterback under the bus. I don't know if he meant it to be that, but I'm sure they're going to get to the bottom of that topic in Philly, and we'll have more to report as the week goes on. Last game here was
real quick. Our buddy Mike Sando always does his 6-pack or whatever. I forget what he calls it every Monday, but he had this little nugget with the Eagles that they average 1.3 offensive points in the first quarter of games. 1.3 offensive points in the first quarter of games. That's 792nd out of 796 offenses in the 2000s. Like, they start slow and they run the ball like crazy. It's kind of a odd formula a little bit.
It is odd, making the level of difficulty a little higher for themselves. Yeah, that's not a great formula. Not scoring first. Scoring first is one of the first things you put on the whiteboard, right, going into the week. We'll save the best for last year, and it is the Pittsburgh Steelers who handled the Cleveland Browns 27-14. Even without George Pickens, the Steelers trying to prove to everybody they're one of the more complete teams in the NFL.
Yeah, Pickens tweaked a hamstring Thursday, I think, in practice. So they decided to keep him out, to keep him ready for the big stretch here coming up. They didn't say, oh, we can beat the Browns without him, but they beat the Browns without him. Kind of a revenge game after that Thursday night. They kept Garrett at bay pretty well. The whole key, though, was the negative plays from the Browns. I mean, me, I count missed field goals and missed fourth down opportunities as turnovers. And if you go by that logic, the Steelers won the turnover battle 6-1. They just didn't make mistakes. They took care of their business and made defensive plays.
It's a very Steelery way to win a football game.
Very Steelery way. Yeah.
So 10-3 Steelers in a great spot in the AFC North now. The Browns have been in draft mode for a little while. The Jameis Winston experience is kind of that, right? He's going to throw it 41 times. It could be spectacular. It could blow up.
He did some good things.
Could be somewhere in the middle. Yeah, make some good throws. But in the end, the Steelers are a better football team. A little revenge from an earlier season loss at the hands of the Cleveland Browns. 10-3 Steelers now in a great spot as we have
2-game lead over the Ravens.
Yeah, they can stumble a little bit and they'll still be fine. Do they have the Ravens? Oh yeah, because they have those late division games, right? They
go to Philly this week, which is brutal. They have the Chiefs here on Christmas. Taylor Swift's tour is over, so there's that. They got to go to Baltimore, and they finish with Cincinnati at home. But Cincy will probably have nothing to play for. So there's one easy game.
Spoiler. That's the one you look out for, that division opponent that's already out of it. It's a gauntlet. You need that 2-game lead going into that stretch.
Yeah, you had to get this Browns game. Yep.
There we go. That was week 14 NFL Sunday. Let us know what you think at BD Peacock, at Williamson NFL. Get those questions in for this week's mailbag. Drop a question on YouTube in the comments as well. Subscribe while you're there. Matt and I back tomorrow right here. Peacock and Williamson.